You don't scare me, toy soldier. The boxer smirked, moments before his fist shot out, cracking against the unflinching jaw of a soldier who didn't even blink. Gasps echoed through Arlington National Cemetery. A child whimpered. For a breathless second, time stood still. Marcus "Mad Dog" Dalton, a former heavyweight champ known more for his viral knockouts than his character, had arrived at the tomb of the unknown soldier for a promotional shoot. He wore flashy sunglasses, a designer tracksuit, and the kind of arrogance that thinks sacred ground is just another backdrop. But the instant he stepped past the black rope onto forbidden soil, something shifted. "Sir, step back." The voice came like steel under ice. The guard, a member of the elite 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard, stood firm, dressed in full ceremonial uniform, M14 in hand. Not a flinch. Not a blink. Dalton laughed, flexed for a phone camera, and stepped closer, slow and mocking. "I said, step back." The words were firmer now, almost a whisper with weight. The sentinel never broke his stance. His white gloves didn't twitch. But Dalton turned to his camera crew, grinned wide, and threw a punch. It landed. But the soldier didn't fall. Didn't move. Just stood there. Even Dalton looked stunned. Then came the voice again, calm, immovable. "You have violated hallowed ground. You are now under military detention." From behind the monument, 2 soldiers emerged like shadows in dress blues. One wore a captain's insignia, the other a master sergeant's stripes. Their movements were silent, controlled, and fast. Dalton tried to retreat but was gently yet firmly restrained. The cameras stopped rolling. No one said a word. A heavy silence blanketed the space like a flag lowered in mourning. They guided Dalton to a bench at the base of the steps. He resisted at first, cursing, demanding his lawyer. No one acknowledged him. Tourists and visitors slowly stepped aside, creating a clear aisle, not of respect, but of disgrace. Then, through the crowd, stepped a man draped in quiet authority, an older gentleman with a Medal of Honor gleaming on his chest. Colonel Thomas Braddock. Retired. Vietnam veteran. Decorated beyond most people's imagination. He approached slowly, his eyes never leaving Dalton. "You think you're tough," he said, his voice low and even. "Try guarding that tomb in rain, in snow, in the blazing heat. Guarding a grave for a man you'll never meet, who never came home." Dalton didn't speak. His mouth opened, then closed. The colonel stepped closer, unwavering. "That sentinel you hit? He's memorized a 21-second walk. Trains for over a year. Stands in a wool uniform in 100-degree heat. Hasn't smiled in months. All for a soldier whose name we don't even know. That's not brute strength. That's honor. That's discipline." Dalton's chest rose and fell. He looked at the tomb, at the marble words etched in silence. "Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God." Something inside him cracked. The sunglasses came off. The swagger faded. Even his social media crew lowered their cameras. The influencer was gone. Just a man stood there now. And that man turned to the captain. "Can I apologize?" Dalton asked, voice almost a whisper. The officer studied him. Then nodded once. "You can." Together, they walked back toward the guard, who still had not moved an inch. Dalton stepped forward, and in front of everyone, bowed his head. "I disrespected you, and this place. I'm sorry." The sentinel didn't nod. Didn't move. But from behind, another guard gave the slightest of gestures, enough to say, "Apology accepted." Dalton stepped back behind the rope. He turned to leave. A single clap broke the silence. Then another. Then the whole crowd joined in, not applauding the man he had been, but the man he was becoming. Small Blue Diamond. Later, the backstory emerged. Marcus Dalton grew up in a broken home, fought for everything: food, fame, a name. Boxing wasn't a sport to him. It was survival. Respect, he once said, was for losers. He made headlines for mocking his opponents, punching referees, ignoring rules. But that day, something changed. He found a force greater than fists. One you don't build in the gym. Discipline. Honor. Silence. And that guard? He had a name too. Specialist Andrew Morales. 23 years old. Third-generation Army. Trained 18 months to earn a role fewer than 700 men in U.S. history have held. Dalton's punch hit his face, but it struck at a nation's pride. Dalton never returned to boxing after that day. Instead, he launched a nonprofit. 21 Steps, a foundation dedicated to teaching discipline and respect to at-risk youth and young fighters. The first lesson. Visit Arlington. Small blue diamond. Final scene. A year later, a man in a black suit walks the paths of Arlington alone. No cameras. No crew. No press. Marcus Dalton. He stands silently as the changing of the guard begins. When the sentinel passes, Dalton folds his hands, bows his head. The sentinel pauses, just for a heartbeat, mid-step. Then continues. Flawless. Precise. Silent. Because some punches teach pain. Others teach respect. If this story moved you, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Subscribe, hit the like button, and drop a United States emoji below to honor the unknown. United States.